Due to mature subject matter, viewer discretion is advised.
This public library here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, recently hosted an event called Drag Queen Story Hour, and we witnessed parents taking their children as young as 2 inside to take part. Drag Queen Story Hour is advertised as an event that captures the imagination and play of childhood and gives kids glamorous, positive, and diverse role models. It is all part of a national initiative with more than 20 chapters across the country. Last summer, the Boston Public Library allowed drag queens dressed as Catholic nuns, called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, to read to kids. At another, a man dressed in drag encouraged a young child to become a drag queen.
I would like to be a superhero.
Yeah, you could be a drag queen superhero.
Elizabeth Johnston, also known as the activist Mommy, calls the issue surrounding gender confusion gender insanity.
Moms and daughters transitioning to the opposite sex together. We've got guys going into girls' locker rooms and bathrooms, and drag queens are reading stories to children in public libraries, thereby normalizing this behavior of men dressing up in high heels, a wig, a bra, and copious amounts of makeup. Whatever happened to puppet shows and craft day at the library?
More than 20 parents brought kids ages 2 to 8 to a Virginia Beach Story Hour, where Gillette Black, who is openly gay, dressed as a mermaid and read 3 books as part of an Under the Sea theme. Black wants to be a positive role model and says reading in drag makes it more fun for the kids.
Just to give them something extra to look forward to, the makeup, the glitter, it's going to keep them more in tune and more willing to listen and pay attention. They were all accepting. They all were happy about it and excited and giving me hugs and everything.
Library officials say the program highlights a need in its community.
The library has a strategic plan, and one of our big parts of our plan is inclusion and diversity. So we offer about 8,000 programs for children and adults a year, and we just wanted to make sure we cover a wide variety of interests and speak to all members of our community. So this program fell into that strategic action item.
But outraged residents argue the program will harm kids.
I think it's really unfortunate that our city isn't going to, they're here to protect and keep us safe. And I'm not sure they're doing that for all the population, especially the children. Here they're going to get exposed to something that they're really not sure about and be confused.
And it doesn't stop there. Netflix plans to debut a gay-themed superhero show featuring cross-dressers called Super Drags. The activist Mommy describes today's culture movements as an embarrassing moment in our nation's history.
We have become so open-minded that our brains are falling out. Truth and reality and science really mean nothing to the left. People are fighting their true biological identity, and Hollywood and the media are trying to pressure us to celebrate this.
2 more Drag Queen Story Hour events are planned for this Virginia Beach Library in August and September.
Sheriff's deputies in New Mexico rescued 11 children and found a child's body at a makeshift compound that was raided over the weekend.
The parents of the 11 kids, who authorities describe as Muslim extremists, in custody today as officials continue to investigate whether the kids were being trained to carry out school shootings. Those children now in foster care and under the protection of the state.
This is an extraordinary case.
At the bond hearing for Siraj Ibn Wahaj and 4 others, prosecutors presented a disturbing update about his son, 3-year-old Abdul Ghani, whose body was found buried on this apocalyptic-looking compound authorities raided last week. Other children found there told investigators the boy died during a religious ritual.
Some of the children have stated that these rituals were intended to cast out demonic spirits from Abdul Ghani's body. all 5 defendants knew about these rituals.
The children also said they were instructed how to use firearms and how to clear rooms in case police came to the compound. One child was armed when police arrived.
There was somebody trying to break into the house, lots of people crying.
Police are piecing together a violent and bizarre crime scene in this Aurora, Colorado neighborhood.
He grabbed the 11-year-old child and dragged the child into the bathroom. I'm not going to go into the graphic details of what happened in the bathroom other than to say that that child was violently assaulted.
73-year-old Vietnam veteran Richard Gary Black was trying to protect his grandson from a naked and seemingly crazed intruder, identified as 26-year-old Dejan Harper.
13 calls, shots fired.
Black had killed Harper as officers burst in.
They see Mr. Black emerge into the officer's view. For the next 13 seconds, officers continue to give at least 5 commands to Mr. Black to drop the gun and to show his hands. We don't know why, but for whatever reason, Mr. Black did not drop the gun.
That's when officers fired 4 rounds on Black, killing the wrong man. During his service in Vietnam, he was awarded many medals, including the Purple Heart and Bronze Star.
Mr. Black saved his family's life that night, in particular his young grandson. We remain heartbroken over this situation.
The officer who killed Black was also a military veteran, and Jeff, it turns out he was involved in another shooting a month ago. The police chief says his department is now receiving death threats.
It's what some believe to be an old school way to make a statement.
You just write a letter to the editor, and he might put it in the newspaper.
But for Julianne Spire, it happened. The 12-year-old girl tells me she was marching with her Girl Scout troop during Chesterland's 4th of July parade, right behind the Boy Scouts, when the announcer made comments she didn't like.
The announcer says, "Here comes the future leaders of America, and look behind them. There's the Girl Scouts. They look like they sure are having fun." And that didn't seem fair, because girls can be anything that we want.
Julian tells me she and her friends were offended, so at a friend's suggestion, she wrote the letter.
I would appreciate it if you would help me to let other people know how much this kind of thing happens and how bad it is. I feel it is an insult to both girls and women of all ages.
I reached out to one of the organizers of the parade, and she would not confirm or deny what was said, but in a statement wrote, quote, "There was an unfortunate misunderstanding of 2 unrelated comments." Julianne's mother says she's proud of the respectful way her daughter handled the situation. She wrote the letter all on her own.
And it is sexism. You know, some people would comment that, oh, we just was saying they were having fun. What's wrong with saying that? By elevating one group and purposely treating another group as if they're less than is wrong.
So much is possible now thanks to social media filters. You want flawless skin, fuller lips? How about bigger eyes or perfect hair? It's done with just a few clicks.
Let me take a selfie.
But this obsession with self-image has a name: Snapchat dysmorphia, a term coined earlier this year by a plastic surgeon. Doctors reportedly say Snapchat dysmorphia is a concern for people with a condition called body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, which is an obsession with perceived flaws in appearance. Patients with Snapchat dysmorphia look for plastic surgery options to look like the filtered version of themselves. Health.com reported that recent data shows 55% of surgeons report that patients are looking for plastic surgery to improve the way they look in social media selfies. That's up 42% from 2015.
Well, the lack of affordable housing is forcing more Americans to live out of their cars. A recent study found the number of people residing in their vehicles surged by 46% over the past year. The problem is more prominent in urban areas, with expensive housing markets fueling the change. However, the practice is illegal in many U.S. cities. A recent survey by the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty found prohibitions against vehicle residency have more than doubled over the last decade.
Whistleblowers have reportedly come forward revealing Google is developing a censored version of its search engine in China, with plans to relaunch it soon. Google shut down the search engine in 2010, citing government attempts to limit free speech on the web. It was an attempt to protest government censorship and online hacking because the country reportedly censored certain websites, including ones about the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre and ones with references to anti-communism and dissidents. Google's new project, named Dragonfly, has been getting fine-tuned since the beginning of 2017, and according to The Intercept, it will blacklist websites and censor search terms about human rights, democracy, religion, and peaceful protest. Amnesty International is voicing its concerns, saying if Google accepts China's censorship terms, it would be a dark day for internet freedom.
Remember what Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg told a Senate hearing back in April?
There is certain content that clearly we do not allow, right? Hate speech, terrorist content, nudity, anything that makes people feel unsafe in the community. From that perspective, that's why we generally try to refer to what we do as a platform for all ideas.
A platform for all ideas, really? Over the past few months, Facebook and other tech giants have given us ample reason to doubt that proclamation. The latest example started early yesterday morning when Apple pulled several podcasts associated with the controversial and often incendiary Alex Jones from the iTunes store. Facebook followed suit, unpublishing 4 of Jones' pages, claiming the videos on those pages violated that hate speech policy. Hours later, YouTube decided it wasn't going to miss out on all that censorship fun, and YouTube suspended the Alex Jones channel with its 2.4 million subscribers. Oh, it's easy to dismiss concerns about big tech's actions, all coordinated, it seems, to shut down Jones, because, of course, he's the media's poster child for conspiracy theories. But this isn't about Alex Jones. This is about freedom and our access to information from the sources we as individuals trust and like. If big tech can control the information flow, then they can also perhaps even influence the outcome of the midterms and even future presidential elections.
Essentially, Alex Jones has been deleted, digitally deplatformed from these websites. You wonder if he'll have any influence going forward, because these private companies do have an incredible amount of control over the internet.
And that's the point. Controlling who has a voice and who doesn't on these monster platforms is tantamount to limiting speech. And as you'll see in a moment, it's also viewpoint discrimination. Back in February, Facebook launched a new algorithm that would cause top conservative pages to see a dramatic drop in traffic. Next, it was YouTube, who let conservative influencers build up an audience for years, only to end up limiting their channels, temporarily demonetizing them with no warning at all. This has happened to conservative commentators like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager. For many on the left, the view seems to have become that if you can't beat them, prevent them from speaking. Just look at what's happened to conservative speakers on college campuses. And after liberal radio hosts flopped on Air America, remember them? Well, some Democrats sought to revive the fairness doctrine to snuff out conservative talk radio. Thankfully, that went nowhere. But now they've moved on to the internet and squelching political speech there. A leaked proposal circulating among Senate Democrats outlines a detailed plan to take over the internet by regulating digital platforms and purging content they deem harmful or inaccurate. In other words, information they don't like. It would require social media users to be tracked and labeled according to how reasonable their content is deemed to be. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy even hinted at this yesterday, tweeting, "InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it." How dramatic. Translation, the survival of the Democratic Party depends on it. There's an old saying in TV and radio that content is king. Same goes for the internet. If they can shut down political speech on the grounds that it's hateful, you have to ask, where does this end?